You to beautiful Bull Shoals Lake, where more than 230 anglers have gathered in late April for the Forrest Wood Appreciation Buddy Bass Tournament. This event is an annual affair that gives fathers and sons, husbands and wives, and old fishing buddies an opportunity to get together for 2 days of camaraderie and bass fishing, and a chance to honor Forrest Wood, the founder of Ranger Boats. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
Through the years, actually, there was just one new thing after another from the very beginning. Of course, we started with a guide model and then expanded into the pro fisherman model. And through the years, we just changed models depending on custom orders. The truth of the matter is we were a custom boat building operation for a long time. We built just whatever somebody wanted. And if they wanted a certain configuration, we'd build that for them. And we started with a glorified John boat and then improved it, put live wells in it and swivel seats, and they were glass then. Then we finally started putting naugahyde seats in them and carpet. Jerry McInnes one day wanted carpet in the boat, and I thought he'd lost his mind, but we did it for him anyway.
More than $111,000 for the American Epilepsy Foundation on behalf of Forrest Wood and his wife, Nina. This year, 117 teams have paid $150 each to enter the 2-day tournament, which carries cash and prizes exceeding $40,000, including a Ranger 175 BS and Ranger Trail trailer to the winning team. A Mercury 150 EFI outboard is awarded to the team that brings in the biggest bass of the tournament, and the team that brings in the second biggest bass will take home a Motor Guide Tour Edition trolling motor. This year, early spring rains have put Bull Shoals 15 feet above normal, which is both good news and bad news. The good news is that the flooded buckbrush is a magnet for spawning bass. The bad news is that the bass are now spread out over thousands of acres of new water. On top of that, the water level is still rising, and as it does, the water in the buckbrush is getting murkier, making it hard for those who like to sight fish to see their quarry. On the morning of day one, the tournament participants are greeted by a surprise they hadn't anticipated. As the takeoff time approaches, Bull Shoals is shrouded in a dense fog. For some, the fog provides a chance to catch up on some rest. For others, it's a chance to catch up with old friends. Finally, after a delay of more than 2 hours, the fog begins to lift, and the tournament competitors are eager to get out on the water. Buster Loving and Tim Sonato are one of the most formidable teams entered in this year's tournament. These two Table Rock guides are among the best you'll find anywhere in clear water, and together they combined to win this event in 1998. But today, the fish they've located just aren't biting. And if this keeps up, it looks as if they're in for a very long day. Steve and Pam Hendrickson are one of 3 husband and wife teams entered in this year's tournament, and so far, they're holding their own. They already have 2 keepers in the live well, and if they can keep that pace up, they stand a chance of being among the day one leaders. Larry Herndon and his son Brian are sight fishing aficionados, so to speak, and they're nothing if not persistent. This morning, they already have 3 keepers, but so far, they're all small. Now, the Herndons believe it's going to take at least 1 big fish a day to have a chance at winning, so they've concentrated on locating better quality fish. Finally, Brian gets one to grab his tube bait, and the battle is on. Unfortunately, the bass gets caught up in the buckbrush, and in a matter of seconds, it breaks free. But you can bet the Herndons will be checking back at this address later in the day. Among the favorites in this year's tournament is the team of Butch Still and Lou Treat. These 2 Ranger Boat employees are among the best around Bull Shoals, and together they've won a total of 4 Central Pro-Am titles. Today, they too are sight fishing for spawning bass, and they're giving the Bull Shoals bass the old 1-2 punch, fishing 2 different colored Gitsits. First, they pitch a white one into the nest to see if the bass reacts. If the bass responds, they keep working it. If the bass ignores it, they quickly try a red and white one. By following that plan, Treat and Still already have voted a limit, and they seem certain to be among the Day 1 leaders. When the anglers return to Bull Shoals Boat Dock for the Day 1 weigh-in, the team of Jed Forrester and Timothy Wood jumps into the early lead with a 6-bass limit weighing 12.6 pounds. Next is the team of Richie Black and Gary Gamble.
Another limit, going to weigh one for big bass, another pretty smallmouth bass. Not going to get there, but it's going to be close. 3.45 pounds. How'd you catch that big brownie?
Right here.
Nobody's going to listen. What'd you catch that fish on?
Spinnerbait.
What color is spinnerbait?
Blue one.
A blue spinnerbait.
Yeah.
How long, were you lying when you first got out of bed this morning, or you just starting?
I've been lying all day.
Nice sack of fish here for the team. 6 bass that weighs 12.65 pounds.
Right behind them are Larry and Brian Herndon, whose limit tips the scales at 12.25 pounds. Then the team of Lou Treat and Butch Still steps up.
You got 6, is that right, Lou?
Yeah.
How many other fish did you have on other than the 6?
I think I've caught 10 keepers.
10 keepers, and were you sight fishing as well?
We caught them about half and half.
Half of them sight fishing, half of them just fishing. 13. 13.10 pounds. New leaders right now. Put your hands together.
Next is the team of Bobby Comstock and Tommy Skinner.
Got one we're going to weigh for big bass. What is big bass right now? Now we got 2 of them. 2 bass that weigh 360 for big bass. That's our big bass right now. You're tied for the lead right now for big bass. How'd you catch that fish?
I'm not sure. We got them on 3 different baits.
And you can't remember. You can't remember that far back?
It's been a long day.
What happened today to make it such a bad day? You look like you're just absolutely beat to death.
Reeled in all them big ones.
My gosh, I guess so. Look at this. Goodbye, lead. Goodbye, Butch Still.
Comstock and Skinner's 6-fish limit weighs in at a hefty 15.55 pounds and moves them into the tournament lead. Then come Robert and Robbie Dodson.
6-fish limit. How'd you guys catch your fish today?
Sight fishing.
What part of the lake are you fishing in?
Close.
Right here, close. Good sack of fish. Uh-oh, he said. Almost uh-oh. $14.40 pounds.
At the end of the first day, Bobby Comstock and Tommy Skinner sit atop the Lunker Lure scoreboard with 15.55 pounds. Just over a pound behind are Robert and Robbie Dodson with 14.4 pounds, followed by Butch Still and Lou Treat, Richie Black and Gary Gamble, and Jed Forrester and Timothy Wood. In the rest of the top 10, Larry and Brian Herndon lead the way in 6th place with 12.25 pounds. But they have only a narrow lead over the teams of Larry Dickey and Chris Fox, Bruce Davis and Shannon Payne, Robert Robbins and Tim Taylor, and Don Pippin and Jerry Snyder. Stay tuned for exciting Day 2 action. We'll be right back.
We began building boats in 1968, and all struggled as young companies do, and kind of got our head above the water and got to going along pretty good. And then May the 4th, 1971, while my good friend Roland Martin and I were having dinner at our house, the fire whistle blowed, and the Ranger boat plant was on fire at Flippin, Arkansas, and it was the biggest fire that Flippin had ever had. We didn't ever stop and dwell on that fire any. We still had 60 boat orders and customers wanting to buy boats and 60 trained employees. So we there learned that we were a good company and had good people, and that was the important thing that we still had, was the good people working at Ranger. And I guess that was the most important thing that came out of the fire, realizing that when it's all said and done, the people running the store is what counts. And so the fire was a catastrophe, of course. I wouldn't want anybody to go through that, but it's not the end of the world. However, since then, I've learned most small business fires end the business, but we didn't know that then.
We're bass fishing my way. Helpful hints from some of Central Pro-Am's top competitors. In 1998, Bull Shoals was nearly as high as it is this year, and John Sappington won the Bull Shoals Pro-Am by catching spawning bass around flooded buckbrush. And he did it fishing his way.
Each fish was really different. Some fish would want the bait swam over the top of their head, and some fish would want it dropped in front of them. You may get on something and it'll work on 2 or 3 fish, you know, the same retrieve, you know, maybe just a slow fall or something, but pretty much each fish was different. You just kind of had to play with them until you caught them. When it wasn't windy, I wouldn't use any weight, and if it was a little bit of wind or the beds were a little deeper, I'd use a split shot or bullet weight. And just basically fish bedding and cruising fish. I'd see the largemouth were on the real shallow beds from maybe 1 to the deepest you'd find one was 4 foot, and then a lot of the fish were just cruising in around the bushes. The pockets I picked were close to the channel, real close to the channel, and I could catch Kentuckys out of the steeper cuts, and I tried to find the real flat cuts that were close to the channel, and that's where the largemouth were.
On the morning of day 2, there's no hint of fog, but ominous clouds suggest that rain could be on the way. Bobby Comstock and Tommy Skinner are at the back of Big Creek, fishing Smoky Joe redfins over the top of the creek channel ledge in 6 feet of water. Normally, veteran anglers around Bull Shoals would say it's too early to fish redfins, since they are considered primarily post-spawn baits. But this year, the cool spring and high water levels have thrown everything out of kilter. So pre-spawn bass are hitting redfins. Comstock and Skinner aren't about to tell them they aren't supposed to do that. Robert and Robbie Dodson are catching bass sight fishing, and they have their system down to a fine science. They know spawning bass don't always inhale a lure fully, so they're often lost near the boat. As a result, Robert waits with the net to grab the bass quickly once Robbie gets a strike. They want to make sure they don't lose a big fish after a long battle. So all Robbie has to do is bring the fish to the surface just once, and his dad will have it. The Dodsons have come close to winning the Forrest Wood tournament before, and if they can keep this up, this may be the year they finally do it. Shannon Payne and Bruce Davis are also catching their bass sight fishing. So far today, they already have a limit, but all their fish are barely keepers. They started the day 4 pounds behind the leaders, and they know they need at least 1 big fish to overcome Comstock and Skinner's advantage from day 1. Meanwhile, Comstock and Skinner are still in their spot at the back of Big Creek. But by late morning, it's obvious the redfin bite is slowing down. So they begin experimenting with other lures. Comstock tries a rattle trap, but has no success. Then he switches to a plastic lizard, and immediately things begin to look up. Comstock has come close to winning this tournament before, but this year he believes that he and his partner have good enough fish to win it all. Finally, Skinner also gets a strike on a lizard. This one is bigger than the rest, and he gets it in the boat. But Comstock and Skinner have only 3 fish, and they can hear the footsteps of Robert and Robbie Dodson right behind them. When the anglers return to Bull Shoals Boat Dock for the final weigh-in, the team of Shannon Payne and Bruce Davis is one of the first to weigh in.
Now, how many bass do you have for us today, Bruce? 6. They've got the limit. They had the limit yesterday, too. This could make a nice run here at the lead. In fact, it's going to take the lead. 11.40 pounds, 6 bass, 11.40, 22.75 pounds for 2 days. There's your leader right now, ladies and gentlemen.
Next come Lou Treat and Butch Still.
These guys in the top 5 yesterday. How many you got today, Lou? 6. Got the limit again today. Yesterday's weight, they had 13.10 pounds. Well, they're lively little boogers, aren't they? I don't mean they're little. Those are nice fish, Lou. 12.10 pounds. 2-day total right here. 25.20 pounds. The new leaders right now, Butch Still and Lou Treat.
Robert Robbins and partner Tim Taylor come in with a solid limit, but their fish are all small, and they fall short of overtaking Treat and Still with 21.5 pounds. The same is true of Brian and Larry Herndon. They have only 4 keepers and fall into 4th place behind Robbins and Taylor with 20.8 pounds. Then come Bobby Comstock and Tommy Skinner.
Bobby had the lead yesterday by about a half a pound. How many you got today, bud?
We got 6.
6 again. Did your pattern hold up for you? Did you have to do any changing?
Same spot. We went from redfin to rattlesnake.
Started out yesterday throwing a redfin. Now, isn't it a little early for a redfin bite?
Yeah, but it worked.
Wasn't early for your fish. Sometimes them fish don't read the same magazines as we do. My, oh my, what a sack of fish this is.
Comstock and Skinner's limit weighs nearly 15 pounds, the biggest of the day, and moves them into the tournament lead with a two-day total of 30.5 pounds. Finally, it's all up to Robert and Robbie Dodson.
Robert, you're going to need a little better or close to 16 pounds today. You got them?
I ain't got that.
Another good sack of fish, though. It's a limit. Oh, my. 13.65 pounds. Two-day total, 28.05 pounds. Second place right now.
The Dodsons can't do it, and so Bobby Comstock and Tommy Skinner combined to take home the new Ranger 175 VS with a two-day total of 30.5 pounds. Right behind them on the Lunker Lure Pro-Am scoreboard are Robert and Robbie Dodson with 28.05 pounds. Butch Still and Lou Treat come in third, followed by the teams of Shannon Payne and Bruce Davis and Robert Robbins and Tim Taylor. In the rest of the top 10, Larry and Brian Herndon lead the way in sixth place with 20.8 pounds, followed by the teams of Ray Back and Bruce Chandler, Mike Ferris and Justin Kaywood, Don Pippin and Jerry Snyder, and Pete Winners and Brian Snowden. At the award ceremony, Central Pro-Am President Kevin Bowling presents Forrest Wood with a check for $7,000 to the American Epilepsy Foundation on behalf of Forrest and his wife Nina. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
There is a scene of intelligent young people that are, their career goal is to be a pro fisherman. And I think that is one of the most important and most significant things that's going on today is there is an opportunity for young people to have a career in the sport of competitive fishing and expect reasonably to make a good living at it, and some will make a lot of money, some will become heroes and national heroes. And when we started many years ago, there was a very small percent of people that could do that. The opportunities were so small, but I think what we're seeing is the maturity of a sport that gives Nina and I a lot of pleasure to have been a part of from the beginning, and feel like we made a small contribution to that growth through the years. Many years ago, the Shriners from Shell Knob, Missouri came to me and said, "We appreciate the help you've given us through the many years, and we'd like to do something for you. We'd like to have a Forrest Wood Appreciation Tournament." And I said, that doesn't hurt my ego any for you to want to do that, but rather than just have a Forrest Wood Appreciation Tournament, why don't we have a tournament and raise some funds for a charity and that is needing the money? And they said, "Fine, you pick a charity and we'll do it." So we picked the Epilepsy Foundation. That was the beginning of the Forrest Wood Appreciation Tournament. And that went on for a few years, and along came Ernie Daughtry, who was then running Central Pro-Am Tournament. And he offered to and asked, I guess, for the opportunity to put on the Forrest Wood Appreciation Tournament. And that was my first contact with Ernie. And as time went along, I spent more time with him and watched his operation grow and watched the contribution that he was making to the sport. And I would describe Ernie as one of the few individuals that you run onto as you go through life that truly make a difference in your life. One of the people that has that little bit of charisma that just sets him apart from the millions of others or the thousands of others that you come in contact with. And Ernie Daughtry was that sort of person. If Ernie was going to happen, I would believe that it was going to happen. And he certainly made a contribution to the sport of fishing, made a contribution to many young people in the sport in the central part of the United States, and made a name for himself. And it's been a pleasure and a thrill for us at Ranger to be involved with him. And we're going to miss him, and we already have missed him, but it's a thrill to see the way that the people, his people, have banded together and are continuing the kind of a program that he had started. And I predict that we're going to see great things from this organization in the future, but Ernie Daughtry will never be forgotten.
The Fish